The name P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, or Sean Combs, whichever you choose, has always been synonymous with fame, power, and influence. He's a man who's dominated the music industry, fashion, and pop culture for decades. But today, the headlines tell a different story, one that no one ever expected. It's the story of Diddy's infamous freakoffs, private parties that allegedly spiraled into a nightmare of abuse, coercion, drugs, and illegal activities. How did one of the most successful music moguls of all time become the center of a federal investigation, facing life in prison? How do we reconcile the Diddy we thought we knew with the Diddy now sitting behind bars? The alleged indictment details. First, let's talk about the official allegations. In the indictment, the phrase "freak off" appears 27 times. And no, this isn't some catchy new party theme. These so-called freak-offs were said to be outrageous parties thrown by Sean Combs, starting back in 2009, right after his well-known white parties ended. You might remember those infamous white parties held between 2004 and 2009 in the Hamptons. Celebrities like Reverend Al Sharpton were often spotted mingling dressed in their best white outfits, sipping champagne. But then, those white parties vanished, and an entirely different, much darker series of gatherings took their place. The indictment accuses Diddy of engaging in some truly alarming behavior. He's accused of using force, threats of force or coercion to make victims perform prolonged sexual acts with male commercial sex workers, events that Diddy reportedly dubbed freak-offs. It wasn't just one or two times either. This became a pattern, Diddy allegedly using the power of his fame and fortune to create a world where anything goes, as long as you're on his turf. Transportation across state lines and international reach. According to the indictment, these freak-offs weren't confined to one city. Diddy, along with his associates at Combs Enterprises, is said to have transported sex workers not only across state lines but internationally, just to make sure his freak-offs had everything he desired. We're talking multiple day-long events with a rotation of sex workers flown in to cater to whatever fantasies were on the agenda. The government says these acts qualify as sex trafficking, and they're accusing Diddy of overseeing a well-coordinated operation that crossed all sorts of legal and moral boundaries. And let's get real for a moment. If even half of this is true, it paints a picture of a man wielding his wealth and influence in the most toxic way imaginable. Drug distribution during the freak-offs. But let's get into the specific behavior that took place at these freak-offs. You might be wondering, how does someone convince people to go along with these kinds of twisted activities? According to the indictment, Diddy had a method. He allegedly distributed a variety of controlled substances to his victims, including ketamine, ecstasy, and gamma-hydroxybutyrate, often called GHB. The goal? To keep these people obedient and compliant. And while Diddy reportedly watched, he would also participate. Sometimes, he filmed everything, from every angle possible. The court documents claim that some of these victims weren't even aware they were being recorded, which brings us to another dark twist of this tale: hidden cameras. Hidden cameras and blackmail allegations. Imagine being at one of these parties, thinking you're just going along with what everyone else is doing. You've been drinking, maybe you've taken something, then you find out you were being filmed without your knowledge from multiple secret cameras around the house. It's reported that these cameras were hidden in every corner, capturing everything that happened from angles you wouldn't have known about. According to a Department of Homeland Security agent who spoke to the New York Post, Diddy had sex rooms filled with bondage gear and sex toys, all lined with hidden cameras. It's alleged that these recordings weren't just for Diddy's private collection. The government claims he used the footage to blackmail victims, forcing them to come back and do even more. This isn't just morally reprehensible, it's predatory behavior designed to trap people, using their worst moments against them. According to Rodney Lil Rod Jones, who has filed the lawsuit, Diddy secretly recorded celebrities, artists, music label executives, and athletes engaging in illegal activity, all without their knowledge. Lil Rod's lawsuit further claimed that Diddy has compromising footage of pretty much every person who attended his freak-off and house parties. The parties compared to Jeffrey Epstein's case. One of the most chilling comparisons made by law enforcement is between Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein, the notorious billionaire paedophile. Epstein's dark story is well known by now. He used his wealth and connections to abuse vulnerable young women, keeping many of them trapped through blackmail and intimidation. The fact that law enforcement would even mention Diddy in the same breath is incredibly damning, and it tells us just how seriously they're taking these allegations. Lubricants, narcotics, and freak-off supplies. During raids on Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles back in March, law enforcement seized what they called freak-off supplies. These included narcotics and, oddly enough, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why someone would need lubricant for sex parties, but even experts are scratching their heads at the sheer quantity. We're talking over 1,000 bottles of the stuff. And here's something else to consider. Medical professionals have pointed out that baby oil isn't even a safe lubricant for sexual activity. It can cause vaginal infections and even break down condoms, which makes the risks involved even more reckless. It's like there was no regard for anyone's well-being, only a hunger to create the most outlandish, over-the-top experience possible, no matter the consequences. Cassie Ventura and the allegations of abuse. And then there's Cassie Ventura, the singer who was in a high-profile relationship with Diddy for years. She too has come forward with accusations of abuse. According to a separate case filed back in December, Cassie claimed she was verbally and sexually abused by Diddy throughout their relationship. She said he forced her into his voyeuristic fantasies, meaning he made her have sex with multiple male sex workers while he watched, pleasured himself, and took pictures. She called these events freakoffs, just like the ones described in the indictment. Tiffany Red, a close friend of Cassie, also wrote a letter detailing the abuse Cassie endured. She described an incident at Cassie's birthday party in 2015 where Diddy made her leave to be with a male escort, calling it a freak-off. In her letter, Tiffany said, "I was terrified for Cassie and completely traumatized. The situation was clearly dire for those who were closest to Diddy as well. Tiffany herself described feeling unsafe around him. Though Diddy settled out of court with Cassie, he never admitted wrongdoing, and his lawyer was quick to issue a statement saying the settlement was not an admission of guilt. It's clear that Diddy wanted to keep these allegations out of the courtroom, out of the public eye, but that's just not how it worked out. People are talking, and these dark truths are finally coming to light. The raids and the show of force. Speaking of legal actions, let's talk about the raids themselves. Diddy's homes were raided by authorities, including a highly publicized raid on his Miami residence in March. His lawyer, Aaron Dyer, spoke out against the actions of the police, claiming that there was gross overuse of military-level force and that the authorities treated Diddy's children and employees unfairly. Dyer went on to call it an unprecedented ambush and said that it was all just a witch hunt based on meritless accusations from civil lawsuits. But despite these claims, no one's buying that this is just a media stunt. The kind of evidence collected, hidden cameras, controlled substances, and recorded footage doesn't lie. 50 Cent's involvement and the celebrity drama. Now, let's move on to another well-known face in hip-hop, 50 Cent. He's had a long-running feud with Diddy, and when these allegations came to light, he was quick to make his opinions public. He posted on Instagram, referencing the freak-off parties and expressing his desire to obtain the compromising footage. He said, "SMH, this is gonna be so good. What you want to bet I'm gonna get these tapes." It's almost like he couldn't wait to see his rival brought down by the weight of these accusations. It's not just about the crimes, it's about the industry, the fame, the money, and the way that all of these things protect and enable dangerous behavior. The celebrity web and complicity. Think too about the celebrities who attended these parties. The legal papers mention that Diddy had connections to top athletes, politicians, musicians, and other VIPs. The indictment even claims that these connections gave a sense of legitimacy to the events, encouraging people to participate. It's a chilling thought. How many of the A-listers that we admire were complicit in all of this? Did they know what was going on? Did they just turn a blind eye? It's a reminder that we shouldn't put celebrities on pedestals just because they can sing, act, or entertain us. Being famous doesn't make someone a good person. In fact, Fame can be a tool for those with ill intentions, a way to gather influence, silence dissent, and get away with whatever you want, all under the cover of glitz and glamour. Legal proceedings and what's next. Diddy, who is currently in jail without bail, has pleaded not guilty to all charges, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The lawsuit is massive, a $30 million legal battle. And while Diddy's legal team, led by Aaron Dyer and Ben Brafman, has claimed that there's a rush to judgment and denied any criminal wrongdoing, the evidence gathered paints a damning picture. Moving forward, Diddy's legal battles will be closely watched by the public and the media alike. It's hard to predict how this will end, whether Diddy will be found guilty or if he'll manage to avoid serious consequences. But regardless of the legal outcome, the court of public opinion is already turning. People are starting to see through the shiny facade and question the price of his fame. What are your thoughts on Diddy's freakoffs and the charges against him? Do you think justice will be served? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.